Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Carla and I like all things stationery. This is gonna be quite a long video, so please grab yourselves some cozy drink or a snack and let's start crafting. This is something I made for a fall swap made by Vivan from the Paper Letter blog. We had a deadline to send this by the 25th of November. Unfortunately, it took me quite longer than that. I was able to send it sometime in January. And I was working on this on and off for quite a few days in November, December, and even January. The reason for this is that I had some ideas of what I wanted to do, but then, as you will see, I struggled a lot with decorating some of the projects and how to move forward. Anyway, we start as usual with making the envelope. As I mentioned many times before, I have a fear of fully white envelopes. Maybe it's something I have to lose. I should challenge myself to get over it. And I really wanted to use stationery from I think this was the September box from Your Creative Studio. Since I felt that this was mostly fall theme, although there's a mix and match of nature, you can call some of it winter type of stationery and so on. Because the things from the stationery box had quite a lot of earth tones, I felt the need to color this music sheet a little bit. And since I didn't really have the time to try this tea dye or coffee dye, because then you would have to let the page dry, I just grabbed a distress ink and smudged it all over. Once it was done, you just do the simple thing and glue the whole thing. I'm having quite some issues with this glue applicator. It's all my fault. It's not the applicator's fault. It's because since I craft and something happens that requires my attention, either the baby cries or my partner needs me or the cat is hungry and needy, I have a tendency to leave this open so the glue will dry in this tiny little hole, and every time I come back to use it I have to try to remove the dry glue, otherwise it wouldn't work. I might just end up throwing this one away and starting a new one. When I bought these little flasks, they came in a pack of 3 and this is the only one I'm using, so I do have 2 other ones that are fairly new. After the music sheet is glued into the envelope, I use this beautiful paper from the stationery box, basically ripped it in half so it would cover the 2 corners of the envelope, and I was very happy with it. I then took another piece of paper from an old book and used it as the label. I'm trying to see if there is something that I could do to enrich this project. The stationery box came with these fake textured papers and I thought they might look good, but it ended up that they were probably too muted for this, so I gave up that idea. think here I'm mainly trying to find a way to cover up this white little area on the bottom right side, and then there's also a tiny bit of white area in the top left. I didn't realize that these were gonna be there, but you will see that we will find a way to make them disappear. As I mentioned, this video is quite long and you will see me second guess quite a lot of things. I think I had more than 4 hours of recording and I had to speed up quite a bit, and I also removed very big chunks where I didn't think it was interesting for you to see me do all the tiny details of each project. So once I was kind of happy with what I had chosen for the layout and also some of the stickers to cover these white spots, I just glued everything in. And as I mentioned before, these stickers from this book, they don't really stick that well, so it's good to add a little bit extra glue to make sure they don't go away. I have a goal to really use this book completely. I don't know how long it's gonna take me. It's a weird goal, I know, but I think I'm terribly afraid to accumulate all these stationery items and never use them because they are too precious or pretty. I really want to use them. So imagine how amazing it would be to be able to use this entire huge sticker book. Moving on, we start on the first project. So this is let's call it a pocket with double doors. So the way I thought about it was that I have quite a few of these vintage looking papers, and they are honestly too big to be sent in regular mail without me folding them, which is kind of sad. At the same time, like everything else, I really want to use them. I bought them so that I could use them. So I was looking at them and felt that this one had quite fall vibes. And then I just thought, what would be the best way for me to fold this without losing a lot of the picture and still keeping up with the theme? And this is what I came up with. So the first thing I did was identify the middle, and then I just folded each of the sides to the middle line that I created. As simple as that. Then I wanted the project not to be super white, because that again messes up my flow. So I thought I would glue this craft brown paper on the inside, and that would be my background. I regretted doing this later on, since all the rest of the stationery that I had was also brown tone, and this made it really hard for me to choose the pieces to decorate this with. This is why the footage you are now seeing is really sped up. You can see me clearly struggling to find ways to decorate this and make it functional at the same time. I'm trying to go through all these stationery pieces that I got from the Your Creative Studio box, as well as going through some vintage book papers that I had and other stationery that I had collected. But remember, this should be fall themed. And I realized while making this that I still don't have a lot of fall specific stationery. I think I still fall very much within the just vintage category. But I think I may do, and I was quite happy with the end result. Here I'm trying to find ways to use all the tiny bits of scrap paper that I had and understanding how and where to place certain items. So I decided that this side would be for washi tape samples. And I still have these little cards I got once upon a time at a second-hand shop. For me, these are the perfect size to send washi tape samples. So the plan was to send 2 of these cards, meaning hopefully 6 washi tape samples. Since the space was quite tight, I used the white glue just in the little corners. And you will see that in the top one is gonna work perfectly. In the bottom one, it will be a little bit hard to put in the washi tape, and I'm gonna have to re-glue it. That's fine. I was quite happy with that side, and then we still needed to figure out what to do in the middle section and on the left section. For the middle section, I really wanted to maybe just include the letter there, and we weren't supposed to write long letters, so I think it would be fine with the space that I was allocating myself. I am one of those that likes to write long letters, but thankfully I also have a small handwriting, and I tend to clump it up together when I write, so that's really good to save space. Once again, I'm trying different collage settings before attempting to glue, and here I thought that I had received some interesting stamps on this subscription box, and I need to use more of those. It would be a really good opportunity to do so. And once I was happy with the layout, I just glued everything together. And the middle section is completed. For some reason, I always feel that I could use my time in a different way, and technically speaking, I should be able to craft as much as I used to before. What I don't count is that my energy levels are not so good, or maybe I'm really not in a crafty mood. Maybe I had a bad night with the baby. Maybe he's very demanding during the day. And that affects it all. I think it also made it a little bit hard with this project that I was so pressed for time. I had to craft in short bursts, so I couldn't fully sit here for 3 to 4 hours or 5 in a row and just do it until all the projects were completed. It was really small bursts, which on one hand can be really good since it gives you some time to get your ideas, freshen up and so on, but it's also not so good to stop the flow. Coming back to the project, so I really wanted some type of envelopes or pockets on this left side. Thankfully, I have this little tiny envelope template, and I finally get to use this fake textured paper that I received. I decided to try to match this side of the flap to the other one with some book pages and another paper from the stationery that I received in the subscription box. And I think it looked quite good. I was honestly very happy with the result. I had some minor adjustments to make here on the middle section and by adding more glue. But I was happy with the way it looked. Now I needed to figure out a way to close this, and I have this giant box of these metal things, brads, don't really remember how it's called, and I never really used them. I don't even remember where I got them, but in the spirit of trying to use every single thing that I own, I thought I should try to use them as well. I used a scrap piece of paper to understand how to place them and how to use this tool before actually putting them into the project. Once I was confident that I would not mess up this whole thing, after so much time creating this, I finally added these metal brads. Once it was done, I chose a piece of string to close the whole project together. So once this project was finished, I had a small dilemma. I realized that the pockets I had created in this project were actually too small to include all the pieces of paper that I wanted to send for this swap. And in my head, that meant that I had to do another project to send out. And that's what I did. So the main idea here was that I wanted to give my swap partner some of these square-shaped pieces of paper from your Creative Studio stationery box. I had to be mindful of the envelope size and the fact that I don't usually craft anything that is square or with such a large pocket size. So while laying in bed, having problems falling asleep, I had a plan. Partly inspired by some of Treasure Book's creations, I thought about creating a type of booklet with two separate pieces of paper, and they would be united together by this hinge created by another scrap of paper. So in my mind, each of these squared papers would hold some type of stationery to give away. On the cover page, I wanted to create a little window where you could see what was behind it. And in this case, I wanted to use some fall-themed postcards that I've received. I've also been wanting to combine other hobbies into penpaling, and I have been wanting to do some type of cross-stitch patterns into the papers themselves. I thought this was a good start, and here I wanted to cross-stitch the word autumn into the cover. So I used some squared paper to roughly draw the type of pattern I used. I attached it to the paper I was gonna create the cross stitch on. Secured it firmly, and then I used an awl to make my little holes. And I basically just stabbed everything in the corners of the squares. Obviously, I made some mistakes here, but it's all gonna work out in the end. This process took quite a long time, but I really enjoyed making this. So it might be something that I will do further on other projects as well. Here I just thought that the line I had was too thick, so I'm using just 2 strands. I had to separate it. You saw me trying to pull and stretch, and this is because the first yarn I used was just falling apart with minimal tension strength. If you're a great cross-stitcher out there, I do know that the back of this project looks horrible. I have done some cross-stitching when I was younger, and I know about the importance of having a beautiful back of the project with uniformed straight lines. But in this case, I really wanted to make this fast, and I didn't want to keep cutting the cord. I didn't remember how to cross-stitch exactly, so I just went with the flow. Maybe this is a hobby that I will pick up again sometime in the future, and if it is, I will try my best to have a much better back of my cross stitch than what you see here. Once I finished this, it was time to create my window. For that, I use the postcard that I was thinking to place there as a measurement, and then I just added about 1 centimeter to each side so that the postcard wouldn't fall off. It would have these edges to sit upon. Looking back at this idea and at this project, I really wished that my base paper was bigger. You might have noticed when I was sketching the outlines of the postcard that there was very little margin to actually add the glue and create a pocket. I did not see it at the time, but it will become obvious once I try to glue the pocket itself. Once I had this side created, it was time to think of something to cover up the back of the stitching. As you can see, it was really not good, so we needed to cover that up, and also to make the hinges. I realized that the pieces of paper I had cut were too big. I needed a little bit less. And here you can see me make a very big mistake when I glue the hinge right on top of my cross stitch. I'm gonna keep on going here without realizing the huge mess I made. I might have said this before, but my crafting sessions are quite limited nowadays, very short in time, and I feel the pressure to just keep on moving and make my decisions and go fast. So even now, when I'm outlining the space where I want to use this little image, I didn't realize the mistake. It was only now that I saw something was wrong. And I couldn't really salvage it. There was no way to remove the glue in a way that would not affect the project itself, so I had no choice but to make another one. So here you can see me creating that front page again. And here we go. I made some changes to the lettering. I created a little bit more space around the T so that the whole word was more discernible. I made new hinges of paper shorter. We learned from our mistakes and proceeded to glue the image, this time on the right side of this front page. Once this was done, it was time to decide what would be the pocket itself, and I have these old pages that I didn't manage to rip off in a straight line, so I'm gonna use those to create my pocket, since it kind of matches the brown tones of the project. And here we have the next mistake. You remember that I said I had very little margin for the postcard to sit. I didn't really think this through, or I didn't remember, since again, these crafting sessions are days apart, sometimes weeks apart. And I only have a vague idea of where I left off. But I'm gonna learn the hard way. So as you see, I've glued the page, and here I'm trying to test with a postcard and noticing that it's not gonna work. And here I'm thinking, okay, I cannot rip this off without damaging the project again. I don't really have the energy to create another of these front pages. So I do the next best thing, which is I'm gonna leave the glue alone and just rip up this page where it's not glued. And that's what you're gonna see me do. So wherever the page is glued on, it's gonna stay there. I don't think there's a very big issue since it's gonna be covered up again. And then I'm trying to decide which glue to use, and I opt for white glue and a teeny tiny line around the project itself. And at this time, I am hoping that this will give me enough room to place the postcard. Because if it doesn't, it would mean I have to do this whole thing again. And I really did not want to. So I cut off all the little edges, and it's the moment of truth. As you can see, I can barely make it, but hey, it works. And I am happy. I can finally move on. Now it's time to tackle the other side. And here I clearly knew that I needed a pocket, but I couldn't have the glue of the pocket be in the same page, since the squared papers were almost the size of this square. So what I did is I took this vellum paper that I had, and I'm gonna wrap it around a piece of paper, thus creating a pocket but not having to deal with any glue on the place where I have to later place the goodies. Honestly, I think this worked quite well. I was quite happy with this. And it was a good way for me to start using these vellum papers. I got that block from Systrarna Grene, maybe last year, and I haven't touched it, which is quite sad because they are very pretty. So I really wanted to, again, just start using all of this. Once I was happy with it, I just aligned the front and back pieces of my little booklet and glued it on. You can see that I'm gluing the hinges on the inside of what I call the front page, and then they are gluing to the back side of the back page. It might seem weird, but I think it works. And here we have opening and closing. I needed to add a little bit more glue to these corners. There we go. Now it's time to add something on the back, and I had already chosen this paper, again from your Creative Studio box. I thought it was a perfect enough decoration and didn't need anything else. Finally, we needed some little bit extra decoration on the inside of the booklet. At least something to cover those letters from the chapter page of the vintage book. And I'm going to my super big sticker book looking for mushroom pages, and I find a few, trying to measure if it's gonna be big enough to cover up, and adding it to the project. I'm thinking one of the good things of having limited amount of time to craft is that even though sometimes I'm quite indecisive on the decoration that I'm using, I'm still feeling the pressure to move fast. So I'm trying to be as quick and methodical as I can, making fast decisions, not second guessing myself, and just take a risk, taking a chance. Sometimes I feel that there are things that I don't have, or I wish I had other types of products that I often see online from other creatives, and then I remind myself that I am trying to reduce my stash and not have more. So I think I was quite good that I didn't print any new materials this time and I didn't purchase any new things. Here I'm using some stickers as well from Moavii. This was from a collection from a few months ago that I had already printed on sticker paper to use on another project. And then I just added one sticker to the vellum, and that was it. Once again, I realized that I didn't have enough pockets or the correct size of pockets that I needed to send all the goodies, so I just reused one of my old postage stamp storing envelope to make one more little storage room. This was super easy to decorate. And now for the fun part. These are all the goodies I've sent my Penpal. You will see that some are fall related, fall themed, and others are not. I looked at her profile and tried to match her tastes to the things that I sent her. She mentioned she liked vintage postage stamps, so here I'm sending her a few repeats from my collection. And I'm using this washi tape to close these envelopes. Unfortunately, you will see that this washi tape will start lifting off. It could be an issue with washi tape itself, just the way it is, or it could be that I've had this for around 3 years now and it's just losing its grip. It's one of the problems with hoarding these type of materials for such long time. The washi tapes are gonna either lose the grip or be really hard to roll out. So just a reminder to use your stuff. On the upper pocket, I included these teeny tiny stickers that I receive on the stationery box. If you've seen my opening videos, you know that I comment I don't really have a use for these, so I would send them away to Penpals and swaps until they are all gone. I selected 6 different washi tapes to send. Some of them are vintage theme and some are folk theme. And I wrapped around a good amount in these 2 cards. Again, you can see there in the little corner that the washi tape I used to seal the envelopes slowly comes off. And it's not really doing a proper job. I think sending washi tape samples is one of my favorite things. I really like to wrap it around these pieces of card, and again, I like to use my stash, and I like to send these things to my pen pals. Hopefully they don't have the same washi tapes that I'm sending them. But in any case, it is indeed one of my favorite things to send. Once these were ready, it was time to put them there. It was easy to put things on the first pocket, not the second one, and that's because I have a little bit of scrap paper that wasn't properly glued there, making it harder for the washi tape sample card to slide down. And I kind of lifted the pocket there, so I'm actually gonna glue the pocket while the washi tape is sitting inside, because then I won't have a problem putting it in again. And then we close it up, and it's ready to be sent. The piece of paper in the middle was empty, but that's where I wrote my letter. Now it's time to try to fill in everything in our cross-stitch little booklet. Starting with the postcards, I chose the leaf one to be the one that was showing on the window. And again, it's a little bit tight and hard to put that first one in. So I think if I were doing this project again, I would just make the cards a little bit bigger. But once the first one was in, it was quite easy to fit all the other goodies. So I added one extra postcard, a bunch of vintage papers, some bookish themed ones, and some nature themed ones. And all of these I added to this first pocket. I also added a sticker sheet that I had from FM Studio Art. I tried to add the other sticker sheet, but it wouldn't fit. So I left it for another project. As you can see, I included a bunch of these square papers from the Your Creative Studio box. And that's all of the things I added to this. Then I have this mini envelope, and here I just wanted to include all these fall die cuts of mushrooms and pumpkins that I had in my stash. As well as some other extra bits. I also included these tiny book pages and these mushroom stickers. I'm really happy when I do swaps because I think that this is the perfect opportunity to just send so many goodies to your swap partner. I usually fill up a swap much more than I do a Penpal project, and it's also about how much the project will weigh. I usually spend around, I think at the moment is 50 something krona to post international letters weighing below 100 grams. I can never make them below 50, and that would be amazing. And this swap was above 100 grams of weight, so this was probably the most expensive piece of mail that I've sent in a long time. But anyway, we are reaching the end of this video. It was a long one, but I hope you enjoyed it. As usual, see you next time. Bye!